Access to medical care is becoming more and more of an issue here in Guam, and it doesn't even matter if you have the ability to pay. It's getting harder to see a doctor, to get an appointment, or to get the specialty care that you need. So I want to show you a growing solution to a growing problem. They're going to go out of their way to help find you a solution. And they've been growing their clinical services. Aside from this place looking and feeling homely, like this is their waiting area. Like, I don't think that people really understand that they do full clinical services here. Like, this is one of their clinical rooms. Look how nice it is. You get your vision exam here. So do you need to see an OBGYN, get family medicine done, internal medicine done? This is all stuff that's done here at the Total Guam Foundation. And just to tell you again, this place is not for profit. This is the psychologist's office. Yes, they have a psychology department. They also do psychiatry. It's an entire mental health department that they have here on top of all the other clinical services that they provide. If you need medical care, if you're having problems getting a doctor, getting an appointment, call the Todu Guam Foundation at 649-TODU or 649-8638. You can visit. Good morning and welcome to my day off, but because of the typhoon, I have had to adjust my schedule and I am working on Saturdays for the remainder of the month. But probably the more important reason is because there's this area of disturbance that yesterday was south of Chuk that, you know, some models show it going different places, right? And so it's raised the attention of the National Weather Service, and we're going to talk to Landon Aydlett this morning about where Invest 90W is now and what it could become, what the prognostications, what the forecasts are saying it could become. We'll talk to him about that, and then we'll bring you footage from the session where, so last night I did in the Troy Torres show, I talked about an amendment by Senator Will Parkinson that passed into the budget that would get rid of the automatic stay in Guam procurement law, and how that will have an effect on, or ostensibly will be able to allow the administration, the moment this law passes, to, because the automatic stay will be melted away, the administration will be able to award the Simon Sanchez High School development contract to Cortec at $524 million over the next 32 years. So we'll bring you the footage from that session, and then I'll bring you an update from Senator Will Parkinson about some changes that he is willing to make to his amendment, and whether that's something that can be done during the budget. But in the meantime, we're going to go on a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll have Landon Aydlett to talk to us about Invest 90W. Stick with us.
Good Morning Show with Troy Torres is brought to you by 76 Circle K Guam.
Welcome back to the Saturday News Analysis. My name is Troy Torres, and joining me live on the phone now is Landon Aydlett with the National Weather Service Guam office. Landon, good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Troy. Thank you for having me again this Saturday morning.
Yeah, no, no, really, thank you for all the work. You have to be exhausted, and so I'm for that. I'm deeply sorry. uh, what what this year has brought to you, your brother, and your team.
Yeah, it's the never-ending story of
Yeah.
2026, but here we are.
Well, tell us, where is Invest 90W now, and what are you thinking it might become?
Yeah, right now at 90W, I was noticing some people yesterday late afternoon looking at some of the late day visible satellite imagery, and as I would put it yesterday late afternoon, was it looks like it's having an existential crisis of
Okay.
sorts.
Okay.
It just did not look healthy. I know a number of forecast models still present a variety of scenarios showing something passing through the Marianas next week, and so a lot of people are seeing that on the various weather apps. But yesterday afternoon, it does look very unhealthy, very disorganized, and encountering a good amount of vertical wind shear. And of course, we talk about vertical wind shear. That's bad for tropical cyclone development because you want to have a nice vertically stacked column of showers from the surface all the way up high into the atmosphere. But yesterday, the showers and thunderstorms, especially in the graphic I produced via the supplemental email outlook, all the showers and heavy weather was to the west of the low level circulation center. So it's got to overcome those challenges in the near term, and it may not happen today, and it may not even happen Sunday. The timeline is just being kicked down a little bit longer. So, as I like to tell people, we're kind of in a hostage situation. We're kind of on hold until this thing can get its act together, get it resolved, and start showing some organization. And we're just not there yet. It may not be this weekend. But nevertheless, it is out there. This disturbance is still out there in Micronesia. The Joint Typhoon Warning Center did position it around 7 degrees north, 152.5 degrees east, just east southeast of Winochuk. And so the cluster of circulations, or the centroid of this broad cyclonic circulation, is centered right about there, east southeast of Winochuk. It's going to be meandering there for a while longer while it's trying to get its act together, drifting ever so slowly to the north. But while it is there, it is generating those strong showers and gusty winds and some thunderstorms across the bulk of Micronesia, presenting some hazardous sea and surf conditions to the islands, especially for inter-island travel. And that may be extending all the way to Koshrai and to close to the relief chain, the western chain of the Marshall Islands. But for us, it's something that we still have to watch closely. There is no clear path for this thing for us, no clear threat for us at this time. But
Okay.
we see those model trends, and some of them still bring something in some form of a tropical cyclone to the Mariana Islands. But that timeline may be getting kicked down the road a little bit further down into the week. So maybe our Liberation Monday and Tuesday looks more improved than it
Okay.
did the last several days. But Wednesday and Thursday still look questionable. So this is something we're going to have to watch very closely. Again, no clear course of something coming through at us at this time, but it remains a possibility.
What a ballpark percentage of the models are showing that it develops and that it comes toward the Marianas?
Not too many.
Okay.
That's been the case with this thing from the very beginning. The American GFS model has been the most ambitious, showing some aggressive development. And this is that's the model most prevalent in the social media posts when people are sharing and saying, oh my gosh, here comes another typhoon. It's the GFS American model that people are seeing, but so many others just don't carry that same scenario. And some of them are much weaker, some non existent altogether.
Do most of the
So these
models
are
show a dissipation?
prefer to show nothing developing for several more days, and then eventually something starting to take shape near Yap and moving it west toward the Philippines. So these are just a number of a variety of scenarios, a lot of possibilities. And as I say right now, we're still in the realm of speculation
Okay.
because we still need to see a organized low level circulation center. We're not there yet. We still need to see some initial motion and development, and we're just not there yet. So any of these long range projections, they're speculation.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we don't have to have a conversation about this tonight, and maybe we'll circle back tomorrow morning.
Yeah, absolutely. I think tomorrow morning will be fine.
Okay.
The take home points is there is a disturbance out there. It may develop, it may not, but people across Guam and the CNMI should watch closely and keep up to date with weather forecasts and information from the National Weather Service through the weekend into early next week. This is not something to stress over, to be anxious about, because there's no clear course for this at this time.
Okay. Well, since if something does develop, and since it is gonna go out to like maybe next week, right? If something does develop, I'm gonna go ahead and put my tarp on then.
Well, that's a personal choice. I know I've dismantled a lot of stuff around my house prior to Bobby's passage, and right now I'm just keeping it that way for now, just because of the speculation and the uncertainty for next week. I just don't want to take the time to have to take things down yet again. So it's really up to you, especially if you have any outdoor plans and events for the Liberation holiday, how much you want to reassemble, put back up, especially tents, canopies, and tarps. But um, yeah, it's really a personal choice. I'm not going to be assembling anything at this point just because of the speculation for next week.
Okay. All right. Cool. So we'll chat again tomorrow then, Landon. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, stay up to date and otherwise have a great weekend. We're going to see that monsoon flow across the region, the southwest winds. They're going to slacken off just a little bit today. We're still some spotty showers, maybe an isolated thunderstorm or two around the islands. And then tomorrow the winds will slack off a little bit more and we'll be kind of in a calm wind setup. So you might see more daytime thunderstorms and showers as we go into this daytime heating island effect pattern.
I want the rain. I don't. I mean, I see white clouds outside, but they don't
Yeah.
look like they're gonna pour rain on us. They look like they're
Yeah,
gonna heat us up.
we'll probably have some showers bounce around, but not everybody will see those. That's the type of pattern we're in right now.
Suck. That sounds like the humid type of rain.
Yeah, it's going to be humid out there.
Oh, okay,
And
that's
for
good.
those without power, especially across the Rarotonga Saipan, it's going to be rather uncomfortable, I think, the next 2 nights or so, especially as the
Yikes.
winds die down. There's not going to be much airflow through the home. So keep in mind heat safety, heat exhaustion, be aware of heat illnesses. Just in case you come to those situations over the next couple of days, stay hydrated.
Okay. So we're gonna be seeing regular Mariana's weather the next couple of days.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Landon. I appreciate you. God bless you.
Yeah, God bless.
Okay. Bye. All right. So nothing to post about today. I think that's probably the best takeaway from that conversation. Invest 90W remains an area of disturbance under investigation by the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. But Landon Aydlett was saying that since late yesterday, they're looking at this thing and wondering whether it's going to form into anything. He said most of the forecast models don't show it becoming something that comes over the Marianas. But of course, it's just too early to tell. But if it does become something, it's going to be a little later in the week because it's struggling to organize right now southeast of Chuk. It's gained some latitude since yesterday morning. I think it was like 5.2 or 5.6 degrees north latitude. And it's at 7 point something as of the latest forecast, according to Landon Aydlett, who we just spoke to. He's from the National Weather Service. He and his brother Brandon and the folks over there at NWS are our best friends during typhoons, and also in their charity work that they normally have over at the Agania Shopping Center. And we'll learn more about that in the next few weeks. When we come back from the other side of the commercial break, what I want to bring to you after explaining to you the Cliff's Notes of it all is footage from yesterday's session where Senator Will Parkinson introduced his amendment that passed that would get rid of the automatic stay and ostensibly would pave the way, because the automatic stay will be gone. The administration will be able to award the Cortec contract. And that essentially sends us, the taxpayers, a bill for $524 million. I want to show you his introduction of that amendment and then the short debate that followed it. And of course, what I already talked about, how I felt about it yesterday. But on the other side of the commercial break, we'll start with the Cliff's Notes on what this all means and what happened. Stick with us. welcome back to our show. My name is Troy Torres. It is now 8:20 a.m. on Saturday, July 18, 2026. And in just a minute, I want to bring you footage from yesterday's legislative budget session. And among the things, there are lots of things have been discussed, and there are actually lots of things that need to be covered by all of us in the media, and I need to do a better job at covering some of this stuff as well. But because of the amount of stuff that the legislature has been going through in this fiscal year 2027 budget deliberation, it's just not possible to keep up with all of this stuff. So I have to pick and choose what's really important here. And the BPT started off as a very important thing, right? It still is a very important thing, but something that's going to cost more than the BPT is an amendment that Senator Will Parkinson introduced yesterday to get rid of the automatic stay in Guam procurement law. And how it would operate according to the Parkinson bill is first of all, there would be no more automatic stay. And if an aggrieved vendor wants to protest a decision by the government of Guam in an award of a contract, in the award of a procurement, that aggrieved vendor would have to file a motion to stay and put down a bond and all this other stuff, right? There are all these different arguments against this thing. File a motion to stay, and the agency or DPW would have 7 days to hold a hearing and then I think within 10 days to issue a decision. So there's this 10-day period. And if by the 10th day or after the 10th day, no decision's been made, then the decision is no. You cannot have a stay. Motion to stay is denied. And even if the motion to stay is granted, oh, by the way, the motion to stay would not be to the agency or DPW. It would be to the OPA or a court, and it doesn't. The amendment doesn't prescribe like how that operates, right? It just says OPA or court. It's kind of vague, and then even if the motion to stay is granted by the OPA or the court, the governor can single-handedly come in and lift the stay based on his or her determination of the substantial interest of the territory. And then after that, there are no guardrails. There's no way of saying to the governor, you're wrong. There's no substantial interest here. Not like the kind of procedure and process and protocol that we have in the law today. Okay, so what does this do, right? For future procurements, whatever. You can debate the merits of it for future procurements. But there are ongoing procurements, and there's at least one ongoing procurement protest. Matter of fact, there's 3 in one procurement. And that's in the most expensive of the procurements that are ongoing right now. And that's for Simon Sanchez High School. And if this Parkinson amendment becomes law and it melts the automatic stay, then the ongoing protests in the Simon Sanchez High School thing, which, to be clear, is not something that's being delayed by the protester, but is being delayed by the Department of Public Works, because these protests were lodged, 1 in November and 2 in December. And DPW has yet to respond or make a decision on these protests. None. That's where the delay is, by the way, just FYI. Because of these protests, there's an automatic stay because of the current procurement law, which is meant to protect us, the taxpayers, because the automatic stay provides the time, the due process for the agencies entrusted with making the decision to study everything and to resolve these issues according to their read of the law. And it goes to the agency, and then if the aggrieved isn't satisfied with the agency, then it goes to the OPA. The agency has not made a decision yet. That's where the delay is. And so if that automatic stay is lifted on all 3 of those protests, what it means and what Lester Carlson, the budget director who was on this negotiating team, has already told senators in the committee of the whole under oath is that once the protest is resolved, the stay is lifted, the administration intends to award the contract to Cortec for Simon Sanchez High School. And not only did he admit that, but he also admitted that according to the terms that it has been negotiated, they're going to award it to Cortec at $16,377,125 a year in payments from you and me for the next 32 years. That's $524 million. So that's what this Parkinson bill would do, among other things. But the most expensive thing it would do is it would put us on the hook. It would get rid of the automatic stay, allow the administration to proceed with the contract, award it, put us on the hook for $524 million. That bill is sent to us. And I was livid about it. I'm still livid about it. But when I first heard about it, was like my temper just raged, right? One of the reasons that it pisses me off so much, on top of the price tag that mortgages future generations, of course, right, is the legislature had just finished telling us about the Republicans, fiscal responsibility and putting money back in the hands of the people by cutting taxes, cutting the BPT to the largest and richest corporations on this island and off this island who benefit from the military buildup. Needed to cut their BPT from 4.5% to 4% to be both fiscally responsible and economically prudent, because that money is going to go back to us, the people of Guam, because we, the people of Guam, deserve a better economy. We, the people of Guam, deserve more money in our pockets. And in the same breath, passing this amendment, knowing that it's going to cost us, the people of Guam, far more than what that BPT rollback would maybe put into the pockets of people who don't live here on island, because these military build-up companies are not going to reinvest that money into Guam. How can they tell us that they're for us and at the same time stick us with the bill for $524 million in a procurement that they intervened in that is plagued by scandal? It makes no sense. So, in our mission to understand better what happened at this session, and I'm telling you, according to the senators I've spoken to, it happened very quickly. There were at least a few senators who objected and who argued against it. But this is not good, my friends. By the way, I did also speak with Senator Parkinson, and I'll be publishing the conversation that he and I both had on WhatsApp about this whole thing. He admits that he said that he'd never intended for this to lift the current automatic stay on Simon Sanchez High School. He admits that there's no language in his amendment that expressly says this, and he said that he is willing to amend, if this becomes law, to amend it through another bill. He said he cannot do it in the current session because Senator Chris Duenas is not allowing the senators to go back and make any more amendments. So apparently this is a done deal unless one of the senators makes a motion for reconsideration and the majority of the senators vote on that motion for reconsideration, and then Senator Parkinson or whoever is able to go in and make an amendment to his past amendment. But what a mess this is. Anyway, let's go to a session yesterday where they talked about this.
Amendment L10 P174 III. Senator Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment is a very important amendment, and I would really like the body to consider it, because this amendment is based on a bill I introduced to reform procurement and to end the automatic stays when protests happen. And so for my people of Guam, this is a very, very deep problem that affects every part of our government. And I discovered this issue when I was the oversight chair over energy. We were having load shedding in the island for the first time in decades, and we needed to get some emergency power generation to stop load shedding. But because of procurement's protest, we were not able to get those in a timely manner, and the Guam Power Authority had come to me requesting that we waive the procurement so that we can stop load shedding. And so we got that bill through the legislature. The emergency power generation was completed, and we were able to stop load shedding into the future. It's not a problem today, but it got me wise to the idea that there is a fundamental problem in our procurement. And what that is Guam is very unique in that when you protest a government project, you do not need to have cause. We have an automatic stay provision that says if you protest a government project, it automatically stops. You don't have to prove yourself or anything. And this has been very problematic because it delays these projects, and then even if the person who protested is found to be frivolous, it has delayed the project enough that it has to start over. I had been working on this since the 37th after my issues with power generation procurement, but then when I saw that the same thing had happened to Simon Sanchez and that had prevented the groundbreaking of Simon Sanchez, that expedited my introduction of the bill so that we can stop these problems. Now this bill, this amendment is not retroactive. It doesn't affect the current procurement at all. It doesn't contemplate that at all. What this does is it's for every procurement moving forward, there are now restrictions on what there are parameters on what you need to do now to have a stay. You need to put 2% down of the project so that you aren't just frivolously protesting things because you didn't win. If you have to show that you have a cause and that you have a real opportunity to prevail in your protest, so that way these contractors are no longer frivolously protesting these major projects and delaying them for years. If the people of Guam are sitting at home wondering why Simon Sanchez got delayed, why all these things keep getting delayed, it's because of the procurement laws, and this is one of the most important ones. This is one of the most important ones because it doesn't just affect Simon Sanchez or GPA or all of the schools. It affects every single part of the government. If there is going to be a major project, any contractor can stop any project for any reason, even if it's a bad one. And that just doesn't make any sense. I understand that these contractors and these bidders, they have rights, but you know what? So do the people of Guam. The people of Guam have the right to working schools and working roads and working hospitals and no load shedding, and we shouldn't be blocking the way of progress because of the disgruntled nature of a few contractors who are frivolously potentially holding these projects up. And so I'm not trying to override any procurement. I'm not trying to get involved in any active procurement now. This is an amendment that looks forward so that if anybody wants to protest a government project, that is all preserved. You just have to show that it is not a complete farce. You just have to put some money down so that we know that this is not a frivolous protest. Because frivolous protests do not serve the people of Guam. And if they are being abused, we need to cut these cases. And I think that this is a truly important amendment that if we pass, we will see significant changes into the future because we won't have so many important projects being frivolously protested. So I ask my colleagues for support and, let's go 3 for 3 and really reform some of the procurement that we have in our government, and hopefully we can see some changes in the next term. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. On the amendment, anyone wish to speak on the amendment? Senator Parrish, you recognize.
Did this have a public hearing?
It's a bill that's going to have a public hearing in August.
Okay.
I committed to the author, amongst others, that August will be very busy
So my
Or-
motion is to, set this aside until we get that public hearing.
There is a motion to set this.
Objection?
There is an objection. All in favor of the motion to set the amendment aside, please indicate by raising your hand. Motion fails. On the motion, on the amendment.
Point of
Yes.
order, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
The law says that you're not supposed to include these in our budget without a public hearing. So I'd like you to rule whether this has had a public hearing or not and whether it violates the law.
You can make a motion, Senator.
It's not a motion, it's a point of order.
Yeah.
We point out the laws that we're supposed to follow in here or the rule that's applicable. And that's what I did. 2
So-
GCA 2108, it says no other items can be put onto a budget bill unless they are the same subject as a bill that has had a public hearing.
So I rule that it is the will of the body.
What do you mean? How do you know that?
Because you can make a motion and then we'll vote.
What?
You can motion that is out of order and then we can
I'm
vote.
going to motion that we follow the rules? No, I'm making a point of order. If you read the Masons, that's what we do. We make points of order, we cite the rules, and the chairperson, if the rule's correct, is supposed to follow it.
By it being on the floor, Senator, it is eligible for discussion.
Pardon?
By the amendment being on the floor, it's eligible for discussion.
You've ruled many others out of order, and they were on the floor.
Senator, those were in appropriations and they were in the wrong section. This is the correct section, unless you just don't want to entertain it, that's fine. You can make a motion.
No, I'm saying it's out of order for
Point
us
of order,
to
Mr. Chair.
entertain.
Is she testifying?
Yes.
What is she doing here?
I'm citing the
trying
rules.
to, yeah.
That's
I've-
exactly what I'm supposed to do. Raise
So-
a point of order, cite the rule, ask the chairman to review the rule.
Senator Parkinson, do you still have a point of order?
Yes, sir.
If he's
amend-
rising to a point of order, he
this-
needs to cite his point of order and the rule, Mr. Chair.
This point of order is, this interruption is not necessary. This amendment is in order
didn't
because
interrupt
one
anyone,
legislature
Mr.
cannot
Chair.
bind another.
Point of order again. He's not citing any rule, and you're allowing him to interrupt me. I'm
You're-
waiting for a ruling on my point of order, whether
I-
this violates 2 GCA 2108 and is not supposed to be on the floor today.
Senator, I've ruled that it's open for discussion and the will of the body by motion.
So you're ruling that this does comply with 2 GCA 2108?
I'm ruling that it's eligible for discussion as having been put into the drive in the correct area of the chapter. On the motion.
So you're ruling that you get to
Mr.
bypass
Chair,
2
if I- Point
of order, Mr.
GCA
Chair.
2108?
Can
of
we
order, Mr.
ask,
Chair.
Mr. Chair, on a point of order, can we
Take a
ask-
recess at this moment.
Thank you.
Ask legal.
Wish to speak on the motion? Yes.
I would love
Senator
to
Talal,
speak
you
on
recommend.
this bill.
Thank you.
This floor amendment that the author claims this is to prevent frivolous protests. I have no idea where he got that because there's not been a public hearing. Because if there was a public hearing, we would probably hear that on the review of the OPA record. There has been no finding, none, of frivolous protests. It's gaslighting at its best. Come in here and say we're saving the people of Guam from something that they're not suffering from. There have been no frivolous protests filed. And then we're going to do reform. We love that word. Let's reform the procurement law by a deal in the back room, by bypassing every rule, by bypassing the public, by bypassing the experts on procurement, and not allowing them to have any input on our procurement reform. That's laughable to me. The section that the author does strike through is a section that already exists in our law, that if they want to remove a stay or proceed despite an automatic stay, or lift the automatic stay and proceed with the procurement nonetheless, notwithstanding the protest, there is already a procedure. Unfortunately, the government of Guam just hasn't had a good track record in these protests. And instead of forcing them to get better, to be more competent, to be less unethical, to be fairer, we're going to allow the governor to lift stays. Even though we went through an entire process, according to the earlier part of this floor amendment, that you can petition to the OPA to lift a stay, and you have to make all these findings in order to have a stay. And once the auditor makes a finding that there should be a stay, I think it's the auditor or the Superior Court of Guam, you could just go to the governor and lift it anyways. After all of that, that's what this amendment does. That's the procurement reform that we're talking about here.
Point of information, doesn't do that, Mr. Chair.
State your point of information.
Point of information, it doesn't do that, Mr. Chair. It doesn't give the power to the governor.
Senator, you have the floor.
Thank you. Subsection E. Even if a stay is granted under subsection C, which allows the public auditor or the Superior Court to grant stays after a long process, this subsection E says, even if a stay is granted under subsection C, the Chief Procurement Officer or Director of Public Works may petition the governor to lift the stay. Upon written declaration by the governor that the immediate award or performance of the contract is necessary to protect the public health, the stay shall be immediately dissolved. So who's lying? Again, I'm all for procurement reform, but to do it in the most backroom way, non-public way. Some of you senators were kicked out of the legislature, if you don't remember, for putting your raises on in this exact same way. Not allowed to come back. That's how I got in. That year, so many of us came into the legislature, it was a shock. Because the people were fed up with riders on bills that did not have public hearing, that they did not get to have input on. But I don't know, it's like the lessons are so short. They don't last. We'll make this one exception. We'll violate our own code to amend and reform our code in the dark. That's fine. I mean, I know some of you think you know better, but it's really a denial of the people of Guam's voice.
Thank you, Senator. On the amendment, anyone wish to speak on the amendment? Senator Perez, are recognized.
I smell a rat. This bill also would require a bond, a mandatory protest bond equal to 2% of the estimated value of the contract. The public auditor, in my discussions with him, he disagreed with this because he felt it would restrict who can protest to those that have the money. We are in the middle of a Simon Sanchez protest. This could have a potential effect where it favors the richest of the contractors when there are truly valid reasons for a protest. And we're finding out, as information comes out, that this protest was not handled properly. So protests, in the words of my mentor, are important. They're important to have because it polices these businesses, or polices the government, most importantly, to ensure that we are being fair. To put a bond amount would restrict the ability for this police activity and would give favoritism to the richest of the contractors. So even if a contractor was aggrieved, a vendor was aggrieved and didn't have money to pay for this protest bond, and they had valid reasons, they will be left out of a contract that they should be able to be a part of, fair and square. And this is why we need a public hearing. To try to push this through smells of special interest. It smells of corruption. And to expect the body to agree with that, or it seems like you have the backing, 12 is greater than 3, right? To not even respect the law. We're trying to change law and circumvent our own laws. How corrupt is that? I smell a rat. This is Masi.
On the amendment, anyone else wish to speak on the amendment? Senator Barnett, you recognize.
Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to speak on the amendment and Biba Betnes Tatlu to the people of Guam. This is a dangerous amendment. The author of the amendment in his open had said that this would not affect any active procurement, and I can only presume that he's talking about the active procurement currently for the construction of a new Simon Sanchez high school. We've seen some pretty nifty reporting on this. I don't even want to call it a procurement, really. It looks to me to be a farce where we've listened to countless hours of recordings, where the administration has continued to push to award this construction of the new Simon Sanchez to the contractor that, because of politics, in my opinion, the contractor that they very clearly want to give this project to. And so there has been a protest for this procurement. I don't believe it's frivolous. If you look at the record and you follow the reports in the media, it seems to be a very valid protest. But the issue with this amendment is, should this amendment pass, it doesn't even take a lot of imagination to think about what could happen if we put this on the books. And I'll tell you what will happen is this administration will find a way to rebid the construction of the new Simon Sanchez High School. And then if there's a protest, because again, we talk about all the problems with our procurement system. One of the biggest problems with our procurement system is when we have these politicians who are trying to use a procurement system to give these procurements to their pari or their primo. It's more like procurement. That's when we run into problems with our procurement law, is when we start to play politics with vendor selection, when we start to play politics with trying to justify why we want to award a project to a vendor that says things like they need to donate more money to the senators so they could get bills passed. And so should this amendment pass, that's exactly what's going to happen. This amendment is a thinly veiled excuse to give the Simon Sanchez High School project to the preferred bidder of this administration. And that's exactly what will happen if this amendment will pass. So I just caution the body. I know that sometimes when certain senators argue against certain things in this body, it gasses up the opposition to support the amendment just to fly in the face of the arguments that, you know, the senators on kind of on this side and this little area over here make. I see it. The more a senator will oppose an amendment, the more it makes you guys want to raise your hands in favor of it. But I would just caution that I think even those of us who don't want to raise our hand because we think it's going to mean we support senators on this side, I think you're smart enough to know what this amendment will do. I think we're smart enough to know just by kind of who's pushing it to pass and the relationship with the administration that's what I think this amendment will do. And it also makes it so that if you have a protest, a valid protest, all of a sudden you have to come up with 2% of the project value, which means many vendors, companies will have to pay just to have their protest, especially if it's valid, be entertained. That reminds me a little bit of the medical malpractice, where just to even get in the door, you have to have piles and piles of money. And I just hope the proffer of the amendment can agree with that logic. And so I ask my colleagues to not support this amendment, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
On the amendment, author may close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's really a big thing what we're doing here with this amendment. It truly is a big thing. And there are no rats here. I introduced this bill. It was a bill. It's public. Everyone could see it. I'd advocated for this. This is a problem that I have been keen on since the 37th legislature. So this didn't just come out of nowhere. It was a real problem I saw. After 20 years, we were experiencing load shedding again. And because of the procurement laws, we had to make some extraordinary measures to prevent load shedding. And that got me thinking, if this is happening here for something so important, this is happening everywhere in our government. I want the people of Guam to know our procurement law is the unique snowflake here. We are the one that is different than the rest of the United States. This amendment brings us more in line with what every other jurisdiction does. No one else really does automatic stays like this the way we do. And it's to our detriment. And I mean, if there's any rats that I'm really smelling here, it's for people who have a vested financial interest for the system to stay as it is. People who make money selling classes, mentoring senators in this hall to keep their racket going, defending a broken system. Sure, you may be the queen of procurement, but you are queen of a broken system, knowing how none of this works, but pushing to keep it going anyway. This doesn't affect any current protest. This bill, all bills that come through this chamber are forward-looking. We do not retroactively do things. We cannot retroactively come here and say something is illegal and then start arresting people for something they did yesterday. We do not make retroactive laws. Whoever is the next governor is going to be the one that takes advantage of these laws and being able to actually get stuff done. None of this stops, stays, or protest or anything like that. It just say, if you're going to stop a multi-million-dollar project for the people of Guam, you should have better foundation to stop it than just trust me, bro. Trust me, bro, this procurement's bad. No, we're going to need some money down that your case is not frivolous. We're going to need some documentation. We're going to need some writing from the OPA that there is some real credibility to what is happening here. And it is rich, some of the rhetoric. Like, I have to wonder, do some of these people who are against these things even believe in anything? Because they will say anything. They'll bring up pay raises from a legislature none of us were in. They will, start throwing corruption. They'll start saying, oh, some deals are being made. Like, pay attention, folks. I've been on your side the entire budget. I'm just here for good governance. I don't know what kind of game you guys are playing, but this is something that needs to be done. We're not here trying to sabotage a hospital so we could run for governor. No, we're trying to build a hospital. We're trying to build a school. We're trying to build roads. Not try to keep our mentors employed because they are teaching how to run a broken procurement system. Who are we serving? Your mentor or the people of Guam? Who are we serving? Our political ambitions for governor or the people from Guam? We already don't have a hospital because of nonsense from this chamber. From some of the loudest voices in here. Some of the loudest people saying, where's the DDIQD? Like, well, there was legislation in your committees that you never let out. All these things that you say we need for procurement, you sat on them on committee. So don't come to me today saying, whoa, 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 we need to slow down. This, my colleagues and my people of Guam, this is a revolutionary change, this amendment. It is a huge change. It will affect every single part of government. So don't get it twisted. I am not sneaking anything through in. This is going to be one of the most significant policy amendments that has ever come out of this body. And we should all know that going forward. And it is a positive change, and I proudly ask my colleagues to support me in this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
On the amendment, are there any objections? Seeing objection, all in favor of the amendment, please indicate by raising your hand.
Chair, can you repeat that, please?
Motion fails.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
Yeah.
Your comment. All
I
those...
asked if there was an objection, and there was an objection.
Okay. Yeah. So what was the vote? That's why I was. So there was an objection. All those in favor of the amendment, or?
Yeah. Roll call.
How many votes did you count? I counted 6. No, she was raising it to ask a question. Yeah, I counted 6. Yeah, she was asking if there's an objection. I'm confirming with the clerk the vote.
So if there's any hope for this to be undone, it would be in how the vote was handled. I was told about this.
No, all
by
those
one
who are
the
in favor of
senators.
the amendment, ma'am. That's the way we do it. Yes, there was an objection. Yes, yes.
This one I wanted to confirm.
Asking.
I am told by at least one of the senators whose votes was counted as being in favor of the Parkinson amendment that his vote was actually against that, and that there was confusion among the senators, and that the legislature, including the chairman of the committee, Senator Duenas, are actually kind of stumped on what to do. In the meantime, it's being allowed to continue on into the budget, but there is a dispute as to whether
Colleagues,
the
on a
amendment actually
confirmation
passed.
from the clerk, the motion did pass. 8 votes. We are now on the next amendment.
All right. So I want to be clear about something first, and this is my personal opinion, my spidey senses. Like, I don't think that Senator Parkinson is profiting from this. I don't think that he has some sort of a conspiracy with Cortec. Maybe he's being pressured to do this by Adeloop. You know, I don't think that there's some sort of trade here that's going on with Parkinson. But what I do believe he is highly misinformed. And I'm gonna take a couple of issues here, right? And this is based on civics, and this is also based on my experience in the government of Guam. One of Parkinson's key arguments is this is not going to affect the current procurement, current procurements, and he's mainly talking about Simon Sanchez High School. Barnett points that out, right? But that's not true. Nothing in his amendment says that that makes that distinction. Nothing in the amendment says that of all the current procurements, this would not melt away the automatic stay for any existing audit. There's nothing in the language that says that. And Parkinson does talk about I don't know who's calling me right now. Parkinson does talk about essentially the Constitution not allowing retroactive laws. That's not true whatsoever. So the Constitution retroactive laws are allowed all the time. But I think what Parkinson's talking about is the prohibition on ex post facto laws. So, but that's a criminal thing. So let's say that yesterday there was no law prohibiting murder, and yesterday you murdered somebody. The legislature can't today pass a law against murder in order for a prosecutor to have you charged with yesterday's murder. That's called an ex post facto law. So how laws are applied to a person's freedom moving forward is the only way to go. Today and moving forward, or the date of application moving forward is that's a prospective criminal law, right? Those are the only type of laws that are allowed on the criminal side. But on the civil side of things, to your heart's desire, you can absolutely apply the law retroactively. And there is nothing in the Parkinson law that prevents the retroactive application of the removal of the automatic stay, which means that if this passes into law, on the very first minute that it is law, the administration can award the contract to Cortec, and you heard Lester Carlson say on the record that that is exactly what they intend to do. And the intention, according to the negotiations, is to award that contract at $16,733,125 for every single year for 32 years, meaning we, the taxpayers, are going to pay more than $524 million within that 32-year period. So that's the first thing that Parkinson is wrong about, or is misinformed about. And then the other thing that he's highly misinformed about is that the law is somehow fundamentally broken and that the delay is being caused by the law. No, Senator Parkinson, while there are updates that need to be made to this law that was created years ago in order to conform with modern times and technology and to make the system more efficient. For example, Senator, the legislature never defined what it meant when it says that when a protest is lodged at an agency, that the agency must respond timely. Never defined it. Never defined the urgency of it. Never said the agency must provide a response within 10 days or 20 days or 30 days or 60 days. So, Senator Parkinson, I want you to understand where the delay actually is in this whole thing. Because here's the kicker of it all. The law isn't delaying anything. The law provided for an automatic stay to give the agencies the time they needed to review a protest claim and adjudicate. That's what is going on now with the automatic stay. But the agency to which the protest was made hasn't made a decision. And the protest, the first one was made in November of last year. The next two were made in December. DPW, the agency, has not resolved the protests, has not answered, has not even provided a response about whether they're going to answer the protests. They're the only ones who are holding up this whole process. It is not the law that has delayed Simon Sanchez High School procurement. It's the administration. It's the government. And I'll tell Senator Parkinson, I don't know if Senator Parkinson's ever worked for the government of Guam, for the administration, but I have. I have at the highest levels, and I have at the lowest levels as well. And I know for a fact that the procurement law is not fundamentally broken. And I know for a fact that the reasons for protests and why there are so many protests isn't because the law is wrong. It's because of corruption. It's absolutely because of corruption. It's absolutely because the people who are making these decisions, they're the broken ones. What's broken is our electoral system and how whatever messages we get as voters, and however we're stupid enough to trust the messages that we get from people who are lying and who are absolutely corrupt and who by their nature are transactional, and we should know that because they try to transact with us in order to get our votes. And some of us fall for it, and some of us become part of the problem and the corruption, but these are the people who are making the decisions about the use of our money through the procurement process, under which there are guardrails according to the law, but those are circumvented at several different points, including in the law. From the very first point is from the authorization to use the money. And in this Simon Sanchez High School procurement, that very first place started at the legislature itself with a bill by Senator Roy Kanata that Senator Parkinson and many other senators voted for. A process for procurement that didn't make any sense at all because the legislature didn't prescribe the type of procurement device that should be used, and they should have gone with, knowing all the problems of the procurement before, they should have gone with a multi-step bid like NAVFAC does. But they didn't. They took Judy Wampat, who was the acting superintendent of education. They took her advice and they said, oh, senators, can you leave this open-ended? Can you allow the evaluation committee to make that decision? And then they created an evaluation committee that was made up mainly of political appointees by the governor and not of bureaucrats who know what they're doing with procurement. And that evaluation committee decided that it was going to be an RFP. And they decided that they weren't going to put any weight in the evaluation of the points of this RFP on price. And then this same evaluation committee, made up of the political appointees of the governor, mainly, who are all part of the lieutenant governor's campaign for governor, they ranked Cortec as the highest ranked offerer by 3 points. Only 3 points separates Cortec from GPS. Yet, the amount of money that we're going to pay to Cortec, $524 million if that contract actually is awarded over a 32-year period, is far and away more expensive than what GPS was offering to do. Far and away. And in the negotiation meetings, we hear the only negotiation happening is to whittle down the design, to make classrooms smaller, to lower the ceiling level, to make hallways more slim, to get rid of an entire wing of the design, to get rid of the, the credit recovery program, to get rid of sports things and music. And it's just insanity that the only thing that what was negotiated and that wasn't the price going down, but was the school itself going away, being picked apart for $524 million over a 32-year period. So anyway, I got off on a tangent there. So the first place where corruption can start is in the authorization. And many times that's where the corruption starts. And I have a feeling that the corruption began with that, with Senator Roy Kanata's Makahat Act. Because where did he get those numbers? Where did he get that makeup of an evaluation committee? Where did he get those terms that led to the RFP that was issued in March of 2025? That's the second step. So the evaluation committee, and they're mostly political appointees, they get together and they designed the RFP, or they had the RFP designed. And that's precisely where you would start the corruption if it wasn't in the authorization. And then in this case, in the Simon Sanchez High School case, it was easy, right? It was the corruption was easy because the evaluation committee consisted of mostly political appointees. But sometimes in other projects, you have there's a legitimate way of coming up with the committee that decides things, right? Yeah, it's normally like a committee of 3 people within an agency, and it normally involves people who are very well versed in either the subject matter that needs to be procured or buying, or stuff like that, right? But it's not difficult to pay off those people either. It's not difficult to influence those people, even if there's no transaction that happens, but to influence them to not use their conscience and to instead go with something that's less than objective in how they determine things. That's another way of corrupting the system. And then in the ranking of the points, because it's a highly subjective thing, it's however you feel about answering that question and whether to award more points from one person to another. That's another way. The ranking is a whole other way of corrupt. There are so many levels here. My point is that it's not the law that's broken. It's the system that's broken. It's the people who we are entrusting to do these things who have corrupted this system. And that's why there are so many protests. Because yes, corruption in this stuff happens all the time. Yes, there are preferred vendors. And that's why you see so many of the governor, whoever the governor is. Go back all the way to Carlos Camacho, Ricky Berdalio, Paul Calvo, Joe Ada, Carl Gutierrez, Felix Camacho, Eddie Calvo, now Lulian Guerrero. You'll notice that the companies and the people who own the companies who donated the most to their campaigns, or who are family members or are somehow close to them, they're the ones getting the government contracts. How do you think that? Do you think that's just a coincidence? And how do you think that happens, despite what the procurement law says? Because of corroboration. Transactionalism, nepotism, corruption. Senator Perez is right. when she says she smells a rat. Absolutely. And that rat's going to cost us, the taxpayers, $524 million unless the legislature and these Republicans who allowed this to happen get off their asses and do something to fix this. For Kandit News, I'm Troy Torres. You all have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me, and see you tonight.
He has that innate talent of even the most difficult times, giving comfort, giving solace, bringing stability. In my 64 years, there are people I've known that have passed away, and there's been Tony that has been there to comfort the family and the loved ones, sometimes the most difficult times of their lives. He could better this community as a public servant, but bring people together, even people with divergent thoughts and philosophies, but in the end, bringing enough comfort, enough stability to a situation that there's a consensus and then resolution and progress that is made. So, I'm so excited. I've seen what a great job Tony's done now back in the legislature, but I do believe that with him as governor, that ability to bring people together, to bring folks even with different perspectives together, it's what this island needs. God bless Atacaubo 2026. God bless Guam.
I'm Tony Atta, and I approve this message.